Hello guys, in today's video we are back looking at our Claas Xerion, and as you can see we have a lot of new 3D printed parts. So today we're going to try and put these parts all together. I have a lot of new parts here, and realistically they're only possible because I got that Anycubic printer, the SLS printer that prints with the resin. Some of the detail on these parts I wouldn't have been able to do before. Like, you can see on this little universal joint, there's a tiny little a tiny little clip there that has to flex over the internal part of the universal joint, and that would not have happened on the FDM printer, or I'm sure other people could do it, but I wouldn't have been able to print to that level of detail. And because we're able to do things like that, we've replicated the joints of the original model, but just shortened them so that they're going to fit the space and to make our model here look the right sort of size. But that little joint there, that is perfect, and that is what's going to give us our four-wheel drive. So we have a nice little universal joint on that side, and we have this little axle here, that's for the rear. And again, even these little posts that are on this part of I guess this is a universal joint as well, but those little posts, they would have been extremely difficult to do in the FDM printer. I find trying to print anything like that with the FDM printer generally ends up in a little molten ball of plastic that won't really hold any weight at all. So I'd be pretty happy with that. These are some of the parts that I tried out when I very first got the printer, because I knew I'd had trouble printing these before, and I had a feeling this printer was going to be able to do it for us. So what I have here really is kind of supporting struts for the front and the rear wheels, and we're basically reusing as much of the original RC car as we can. So you have all these little joints with like little bushings in them so that they're fairly frictionless. I don't think there's any bearings, although there might be a bearing in there, but it has bushes on it. Now originally I think it was this piece was printed with the FDM printer, this little support piece, but I didn't have this hitch kind of mechanism on the back. So this is just a clevis hitch to tow a trailer or something like that. I don't think I'll bother putting a lifting arms on this model. What I really want this for is kind of doing things like the Arctic lorry. So say it'll pull the dolly and pull an Arctic lorry trailer, like a big tip trailer, something like that, the cargo bull trailer. That'd be one idea. Another thing I've been thinking, with this you'd really want to pull something like a big plough that would start off on wheels and fold out, something like that. So I think that would be more impressive for this thing. You wouldn't be going around with a bay lifter or something small like that, or a tiny little plough. It just wouldn't suit it. I think you want to keep this big four-wheel drive thing for like pulling heavy loads through difficult sort of terrain. That's the plan anyway. For the minute I haven't changed the motor mount. I was just focusing on the wheels really. So hopefully all these parts will go together and it'll fit onto our frame. I did modify this another little bit. I just grinded out another wee piece. I think it was to let in some of these top struts. If that all works out well, we might revisit the motor mounting itself, maybe be able to get it in a wee bit tighter. This little adapter piece is kind of rough because it was very difficult to print on the FDM printer, whereas this SLS printer should print it fairly accurately. The only thing I'm not sure about is how brittle these parts will be. It feels strong enough, so we'll just have to put the whole thing together and start pulling some loads and see what it's like. Well, I think we'll get started putting it together. This front piece I think is symmetric, so I'll just screw that in first, and then we can hopefully put the front wheels on. So the little ball joint, not too hard to get in. You just have to come in from an angle and apply a little bit of pressure. At this point we can put the lower pin in, but I just want to make sure that this looks like it's going to line up right, just in case that thing on the bottom is asymmetric. I think we're looking okay. So we have these pins here, and they just sort of push into, they're like a press fit. Okay, well that's the first of the struts in place there. I did manage to break one of the little press fit parts there, so I'll probably have to reprint this, but for now it'll do. We've still a long way to go until this is finalized, so we might as well just keep working on it. Steering, I think that was supposed to go on the bottom, so I'll screw that in from the bottom side. So there we go, that's the full front mechanism in place. We have connection to our four-wheel drive system, which you can see there, the differential causing the opposite wheel to spin in the opposite direction, so that's exactly what we want. So far so good on the front side. And now we need to assemble the rear. Well, straight away I can see the part of this doesn't fit. This little piece is supposed to slot in here. I'm not sure if you can see that. There's a slight slot just there, so I gotta get something else in there. Yeah, see, in there sort of. So that piece was supposed to go in there, but clearly that's not going to line up. It's probably off by about a millimeter, I'd say. So for now I'll just try and break that off without breaking too much of it, and we'll just see if the rest of it fits. Okay, with that piece out of the way, it looks like the screws are probably going to line up, so we'll give that a go. Actually, these holes are a little tight, so I'll just drill them out. Well, widening out the holes didn't go so well. I noticed I had to widen these ones out, but as you can see, or hopefully you can see there, I broke that one and I broke that one. So when I reprint this, which I was going to have to do anyway because of this part, I'll have to just increase those hole diameters a little bit. Nothing too major. So let's put it together, see that everything else fits anyway. Well, there's another one snapped off. So not too easy to line these things up, but it seemed to be about the right hole spacing. So I think the problem really is just that the diameters on the mounting holes just too tight. So I need to widen those out so that we can get the pins through without needing pliers and that, because at the minute we're just struggling to get them mounted. Okay, well, apart from the issue with the pins breaking this lower support and struts, I think that has lined up pretty well. Then throw the wheels on and see how that goes. Well, that seems okay, apart from obviously our pins are not aligned right, but I think the wheels look middling straight. So that should be pretty good when we get the proper parts printed. Let's just see if this piece will fit on. So that looks pretty good. It was supposed to line up at the back here. I don't know if you can see that there. That worked pretty well. I'll just take it out again. Pretty tight fit there. But you can see the slots there that were where the old lifting arm arrangement used to be on that. So that's lining up okay, I think. A bit high on the front. Actually, I think this needs to be a little bit higher as well. So this entire section needs to come up that 1 millimeter, I think, because I think it's sitting high on the front because I pushed it down into that piece at the back. So that looks a bit right on the front. And on the back there's probably just that well, millimeter or two, and then I'd say it would sit down properly. No, it's not bad, it's pretty close. So there's our mudguard, doesn't look too bad. The front, I believe on the axle it had a mud flap, but I don't think we'll worry too much about that. We'll just leave it as it is. I mean, the whole point of this is to get the 4-wheel drive system working, so I'm not too bothered about a mud flap missing. So yeah, I'd say that's looking pretty good so far. I'll have to reprint the piece at the back, and I think I broke the piece at the front, didn't I? Yeah, so I need to reprint that bottom arm there. The motor, if it's going to be in the way, I'll look at reprinting something better for that. We need a steering servo. That's going to have to come down through here, I'd say. That'll operate our little steering rack that we've printed there. But yeah, so far it's looking good. It looks like we've all this space free on the front. I don't know, did this model have a front lifting arm? Maybe we could put a servo in and put something on the front. Although I don't know if I'd bother really. I might keep the front short so that we can turn a wee bit tighter rather than having something sticking out the front. But we'll see. Or maybe it's a weight block actually that's on the front of this. That actually probably would look pretty good. But that's as far as I am now. Hopefully the next video in the series won't take as long. But if you're enjoying the build, don't forget to hit the likes up and get subscribed and get the bell on. And that's it for today. So thanks very much for watching.